This is the biggest mistake I've ever seen a home buyer make, and you are not going to believe how much it costs them to not buy a house. Hey there, and welcome back to Bald Prairie Real Estate. My name is Matthew Pfeifer, real estate agent in Regina, and that's my trusted assistant, 𝗲𝗲𝗃𝗀. This video, I'm going through a real example of a home buyer that got sued by the sellers for not buying their house, and it cost the home buyers hundreds of thousands of dollars. But of course, we're going to start off with another one of my terrible bad dad jokes. Why couldn't the bicycle stand up? Because it was too tired. If you have a terrible joke I can use in a future episode, put it in the comments below. Let's tell you all about this crazy story. Order, order, order in my courtroom, I say. We are here to read the facts of today's case. Mr. Purchaser agreed to make an offer on 27 Lemon Street in February 2022 for $1.1 million. That offer was unconditional. Mr. Seller agreed to the terms of that offer, and the possession date was to be June 30th of 2022. Wow, look at this house. It's perfect. It's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm going to make an offer that is unconditional for $1.1 million. I'm not worried about getting my financing. Home prices are only going up from here. It won't be an issue getting approved for a mortgage. That's a great deal. And I'm going to use the proceeds of the sale from this house so I can buy a house in Calgary like it seems everybody else is in Ontario right now. On June 23rd, Mr. Buyer advised through his agent, the sellers, that the property had appraised at $355,000 less than the purchase price they had agreed upon and required a price reduction of $355,000 in order to secure their financing. Please be advised that we act for the purchaser in the above transaction, and we understand that you represent the vendors. We've been advised by our clients that the property has been appraised at $355,000 less than the purchase price. Therefore, our clients require the abatement for the same. We trust the foregoing to be satisfactory.
How about no?
Wait, they said no? Can they even do that? The house has to be sold. I'm moving to Calgary. And I know a great bald guy that can set you up with a fantastic real estate agent if you're moving to Calgary. Real quick pause here. If you're thinking about buying a house in Regina, obviously I'd love to help you out. But if you're somewhere else in Canada, don't worry. I can get you set up with a perfect real estate agent that'll handpick for you. If you check out the description of this video, you're going to see a link to my calendar where you can book me in for an agent recommendation consultation. I'll give you a call, learn about what's important to you in a house, in a real estate agent, and I'll get you set up with that perfect agent in your market. And now let's get back to the video. In anticipation that Mr. Buyer was going to be unable to close on the transaction, the sellers notified Mr. Buyer that they would be forced to proactively put the house back up for sale in anticipation of him being unable to close on the deal. They did not accept any offers prior to the closing date and did sign off on all legal documents required to complete the purchase. On closing day, Mr. Buyer did not have the funds, and the sellers were forced to accept a sale that was $350,000 less than the purchase price they had agreed upon, because in the time between the accepted offer and the possession date, market conditions deteriorated rapidly, and the purchase prices, market conditions, were significantly less. Look, you put your house back up for sale and then you sold it, so I don't owe you anything because I'm released from the contract now. In fact, you are the one that breached our original agreement by putting it up for sale. Mr. Buyer argues that since the sellers relisted the property for sale, that nullifies the agreement that was originally signed, and because it was put up for sale, he was declined a mortgage. I disagree with that. Not only did I not breach the agreement, you have breached that agreement. You owe me money to not buy my house. Here are my judgments for this case. Mr. Buyer is to pay Mr. Seller $345,000 in damages. Because the buyer said they required the price reduction, we found that the buyer had no intention nor ability to close the deal as agreed upon and no room for negotiation. At the time, the buyer did not make any indication they could or would close on the transaction. We believe the buyer's claims that they could have raised the required funds to be insufficient. The buyer is required to pay these damages in full. This court is adjourned. The first mistake the buyer made here was making an unconditional offer. And I get it, at the time, the market was ripping and it was pretty much impossible to get any offer accepted that had any sort of condition, inspections, financing, etc. But then the buyer seems to have compounded their problems by not going out and securing financing at the time that they made the deal. It seems to me that they didn't go out and try to get financing until closer to possession day. And at that time, because prices had dropped so rapidly, about 20% in the course of 6 months, the banks went and said, well, this property isn't worth $1.1 million anymore. We're not going to give you a mortgage for that. And that left the buyer essentially with two choices. They could come up with a balance of about $350,000 in cash, in addition to their down payment and everything else, to make the deal happen. The bank may have gone and funded that at that point, or do what they try to do here and negotiate the price down. But the sellers are under no obligation to negotiate on that price. And because the buyers had said that it was required they reduce the price, that was something the judge looked very poorly upon in their interpretation of the situation. They felt that the buyer was unwilling or unable to negotiate on the price and come up with the funds to actually make the deal happen. And this is where it really swings in the favor of the sellers. Now, they need this money to go make this purchase in Calgary, and I think the judge looks at that as well, because then they potentially have a situation where they can't close on their deal and they're going to get sued. And that is why they preemptively went and put the house up for sale. They were worried that this buyer was going to be unable to close on this purchase and come up with the funds. So they did notify the buyer's agent that they were going to do so and didn't accept any offers prior to closing. Plus, they signed all of the proper paperwork to make the deal firm from there. And so they had done everything to make this deal work. They even extended an olive branch out to the buyers and said, hey, we'll extend out possession if that's what you need to make this deal happen. But it became evident that the buyer was just simply never going to come up with the funds to make this purchase happen. Ultimately have to sell that property about $350,000 less than what that $1.1 million purchase was originally agreed on. So they have damages, and that's why they go and they sue the buyers, saying you not having the funds cost us $350,000, and that is true. The buyers try to argue that because they put it up for sale, that they had breached the agreement to purchase the sale. But again, they had done all the paperwork and done everything to continue with the offer, including saying to the buyers, we want to make this deal happen. And that, I think, is where the judge looked at this and went, one party is doing everything they can to make this purchase happen, and the other one is basically not doing that. So that really is what swings this case in favor of the sellers, at least in my opinion. And it's a really expensive mistake that these buyers make, but it could have been worse, because if there had been a situation where the sellers, now buying in Calgary, have a problem closing on the deal that they have, and they get sued, that potentially then could get passed on or added on to this original lawsuit. Say, for example, when they're buying in Calgary, they can't buy that house, they get sued for damages there, and then they have to go buy another house, and it costs them more money because prices were appreciating in Calgary at the time. Well, then those damages potentially too could have been added on to this. So it could have cost these buyers even more than $350,000 to not buy the house. And again, you can't put this on a mortgage. You're going to come up with cash to make this happen. So most likely you're getting a loan or potentially money from friends and family to pay out your lawsuit.
Holy Christ, I just swallowed a beet.
So as somebody who is looking to buy a house in Canada, what can you do to avoid this situation? Well, I think the most obvious one is don't make unconditional offers. But if you're in a situation where you feel you have to or need to, you better have a backup plan in place, because otherwise you end up like these buyers. So you maybe have to have another loan of some sort to cover the difference, family money backing you up, whatever it may be, or making sure you just have that mortgage in the first place. That would have been a really good idea for these buyers, instead of waiting, it seems, at least till the very last minute to do so. But also remember, even if you get a mortgage approved, you made a conditional offer, you get approved for your mortgage, you remove conditions, between removing conditions and the closing date, if you do anything to change your financial picture, buy a brand new vehicle, quit your job, get fired, etc., you are likely going to lose that mortgage that you have been approved for. It says in the fine print, make sure you read it, that essentially if you change your financial picture, the bank can pull that mortgage. And then you could be in a position just like these seller buyers were, where they're getting sued because they couldn't complete on the deal. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. My editor and I had a lot of fun doing it in this style. If you want me to do more videos kind of going over topics like this, please let me know in the comments below and give me criticism, feedback on what you thought of this video so I can hopefully make better ones in the future. And if you did like this video, give this video a like. And as always, thanks very much for watching.